You're fired. You know, Trump has a very, very low tolerance for incompetence. And I've been saying for the entire time that I've been on the show that there is something crazy about what's going on with the Bureau of Labor Statistics and their inability to get the numbers right. I mean, I mention it how many times a week. If you watch my show, you know I'm always talking about the fact they can't get the Thursday number. Nobody can estimate them right. They come in all over the place. Then they're revised. But more importantly, these monthly numbers that we get that we got today that are revised by massive amounts. I mean, okay, in case you're not paying attention, in case you don't normally watch my show, once a month we get these numbers. Starting about 2 years ago, I started saying that when those numbers come out on a Friday, we don't look at the number itself, the headline number. We got to look at the revisions in order to understand what's really going on. Now, it turns out that once every 6 months, they revise the revisions. So the last two times that we've had these 6th-month revisions, the revisions have been on the order of 1 million jobs, 900,000, whatever. They've been huge numbers on the revisions and always in the same direction. Always the jobs didn't exist. So it causes this amazing amount of confusion. We can have a jobs number that comes out on the first Friday of the new month. That jobs number then the next month gets revised down, not up. These are job additions. Now, I could understand if this was unemployment and somebody said, well, no, that wouldn't work either. Either way, it doesn't matter. When you say that these jobs got added to the economy, and then later on you say, no, they didn't. Well, what happened? Did they go away? These are numbers that are coming in from employment agencies across the country, from various states, and the countries are supposed to send in their numbers. And if they send in their numbers and they say, well, we added 65,000 people, and you add that in, and then all of a sudden they're not there. But no, it gets worse because all the time, or almost all the time, over the last 2 years, while I've been doing this 2.5 years, they've almost always been negative, almost always been taking away jobs that they said were there. Then you get the 6-month number and they take away more. So forgive me if I don't even have to think about the political ramifications that maybe during the Biden administration, you're always trying to pump the numbers up because nobody pays attention to the revisions. And certainly the mainstream media is not going to talk about the revisions. They're only going to talk about the headline number. So that makes Biden look good every month. Wow, look what Biden's doing. Oh my gosh, he's looking great. This is just fantastic. Look at this guy. Look at him go. And then you get the revision. Nobody's attention. It's kind of like when somebody puts out some kind of false reporting, like the New York Times last week with that poor baby that was dying. And then they have to retract it, but they don't retract it in the same place where it's going to be seen by the same number of people. No, they retract it on page 17. You know how it works. Well, the same thing with these revisions. I've talked about this for 2 years, is that nobody pays any attention to the revisions. I was paying attention, which is why you watch this show, is because I'm paying attention to what really matters. Maybe, and as we find out, even the revisions still didn't give you the real number. As somebody pointed out this morning, they said, it would be better if they didn't put these numbers out at all, because banks and companies and investors and investment banks and everybody else are making decisions about what they're going to do based on these numbers, and the numbers are completely bogus. They're useless. Now, try to think of yourself now. You're the president of the United States, or maybe you're just the president of a very small company, and you've got a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper comes in and goes, here's your numbers for the end of the month. You sold $100,000 worth of stuff. And then, a month later, they come back in and they go, okay, this month you sold $200,000, but last month, the $100,000 I told you did, no, you actually only sold $50,000. How many months would that person get to do that before you'd go, you're fired? How many times would you get to do that? I can tell you my case, if somebody was off by that much, they'd be fired. It wouldn't be let's think about it for a while. Let me give you another month, see if you can do better. No, that would be one and done. That'd be gone. But no, we've been putting up with this group of people. This woman apparently has been around for a very, very long time that's running that agency. And the Biden administration put up with it for 4 years. And now Trump's been putting up with it for several months. The numbers have been pretty good, but they've been revised down. And then all of a sudden we get these massive revisions, massive, huge, just crazy revisions. And of course, if I was in his position, I would have said, you're fired. Now, you could have gotten the you could have got the messaging a little better, because in his messaging, he says, well, she's obviously political. I don't know if she's obviously political. It kind of looks like it. And I can see where you could come to that conclusion. But the truth is, why did she boost the numbers in May and June and then take them away? It doesn't sound like a political thing. Now, it's possible that the revision next month will put those numbers back. It wouldn't be shocking. Would you be shocked if they put the numbers back? No, it's very likely. It could easily happen. Then in August, or actually September, the first Friday in September, we could get the numbers and it'd be like, well, we've actually revised the June number up by 300,000 and we've revised the July number up by 100,000. I mean, there's no logic, there's no rhyme nor reason, there's no way to use the information in order to anyway. So I'm not sure I would have called it political. I would think I would have just said she's incompetent, she's out. That probably would have been easier to do. It wouldn't have mattered because the left, the regular mainstream media would have said that he did it because he didn't like the numbers. Well, that's the headline. He didn't like the numbers, so he fired her. No, he didn't like the fact that you can't rely on the numbers. What is wrong with these people? Did they ever run a business? Did they ever run anything where they were relying on this kind of information in order to make decisions, in order to do proper analysis? I mean, it's just beyond the scope of reason. Now, assumedly, maybe you think, oh, these labor numbers are really bad. Do you remember what Powell said the other day? This is just 2 days ago. Powell said in the meeting when he was talking to the press, he says the labor numbers are the best numbers we get. Those are the best numbers he gets. That's what he said. And then this, we already knew. I already said on Wednesday when I did my rant that these are the best numbers that Powell gets. It's nuts, but that's not the only problem. A lot of the other numbers are crazy bogus too. What about the GDP numbers? What about the inflation numbers? Are those any good? How can we trust any of them? I mean, we've got Truflation. Truflation says inflation right now is almost exactly at 2%, 2.08% right now, year over year. And yet they're saying it's going up. Truflation says it's going down. Powell himself has said how the rents are going down. They're flat or going down. Housing prices are not going up as fast as they were. And in some areas, they're going down. Anybody can read those stats. Those stats are widely available from other agencies besides this agency and from people like Zillow and others. And everybody knows it's true. And housing is 30% of the CPI. So then why isn't that being taken into consideration? All right, I know I ranted about all this stuff on Wednesday. I'm not going to go through the whole rant again, but just say, yeah, it's a good thing she was fired. And there's probably a bunch of other people that are collecting data that need to be fired. And many of those are probably in the Fed and they're PhDs that are probably being paid $300,000 a year to give us bogus numbers. I'm done with that rant. Let's go on. Let's tell you this other rant. We had a lawsuit today that was decided by a jury of your peers. We had a jury, I think it was in Florida, actually, if I remember correctly. We had a jury that decided to award a wrongful death lawsuit for $230 million. Now, I didn't read anything about the person that died. I'm very sorry the person died. This is years ago. It's not something that happened last weekend. So this person died. Now, I want to know, was this person likely, are they assuming that this person was about to be hired by Meta? Was this somebody that was going to get, or maybe they were going to be a basketball or a baseball, major, serious professional athlete that just was top of class? I mean, how do you value a life at 230 million? How can you possibly come to that conclusion? I just don't know. And then to make matters worse, this person the person that was driving admitted What? They admitted that they dropped their iPhone on the floor of the car and then went down looking for it, completely taking their eyes off the road. Completely. Now, I don't know how to do that. I would never do that. I might kind of go like this, like that, and look back. Have you ever completely, I don't care, even with my FSD, I wouldn't completely take my eyes off. Well, first of all, the nag would tell me I can't do that anyway. The nag has always been there. You can't, if you take your hands off the wheel for any time at all, the nag is going to tell you to stop it. By the way, it wasn't using FSD at the time. By the way, experts came in and said, no, this guy was completely at fault. So the jury decided that Tesla should pay $230 million because this fool was going 60 miles an hour in a 45-mile zone, which is already not going to happen on FSD. And not going to happen even. I don't know if it could do. Maybe it can do that on autopilot, but he had to have his foot on the pedal to make it go that fast. Anyway, and took his eyes completely off the road in order to search for his phone, admittedly, and then it's Tesla's fault. I can't figure it out. I got no idea. I'm sure this is going to be overturned in the judge probably should have overturned it, but I think it will be overturned on appeal or at least reduce the verdict to $1 million or 700,000 or something. Anyway. Let's talk to more Tesla. European sales came in weak again. We don't have nearly even close to all of the countries to be able to determine to determine exactly the overall European situation. We know that Spain was like on fire. They did great in Spain, I believe, and then it was Norway. They also did incredible. But like in France and in Germany or whatever, they did really, really terrible. Netherlands, I forget, there was a couple of other countries that came in. Now, these numbers are not huge, so they don't really impact the overall. And we're talking about in some countries was like down 60%, but it was 440 down to 220, no, down to 330 or something. I mean, it was there are not a lot of cars, okay, in some of these countries in terms of the total sales. Anyway, but right now it does appear we're still seeing weakness in Spain. Weakness rather in Europe. And the question on my mind is, what can you do to turn that around? So we know that it's political. We know it's because people think that Elon is a Nazi. And yet we've got the Europeans acting like Nazis. Oh, did I say that out loud? I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings, but they're breaking into they're knocking on the door with police officers to come in and arrest people because they said something that was considered to be hate speech on their social media. Yeah, I don't know. I can't. Anyway, so they're calling Elon a Nazi, and so they don't want to buy his cars anymore. I don't know how you turn that around. It's a very, very difficult situation. I don't think he's going to do an apology tour. What do you think? I'd love to know in the comments below. Well, speaking of Europe, Mercedes and Volkswagen have reported, and their numbers are trash. Trash, trash, trash. And Germany also reported their new budget today, and it's trash. The country is in trouble. What's happened to the Germans? The Germans used to be kind of the star of Europe, even though, they had to recover from the Second World War like everybody else. Well, they came back, and they're very determined people and I've dealt with the Germans. That's where I started my career, was dealing with the Germans, with the German imported product. And so I know them well. Very good industrialists, very good at what they do. But man, the country's falling apart. You might have your own reasons, but it's not looking good over there. I don't know what Mercedes and VW are going to do, but they are in pretty big trouble. Later on tonight, I will have CERN Basher Part 2. In the morning, you'll have Brian Wang Part 1, maybe the only part for the weekend. Maybe a chance of Phil Beisel over the weekend. So those are things to look forward to. Last night, I messed up my analysis. Yesterday, I told you that it was, I don't know, I've told you all kinds of different things. I'm going to point you to a particular program that you need to go back and watch. And that was Matt Smith on Wednesday night. This is an evergreen show that we did on Wednesday night. We went over a ton of different ideas and concepts because I don't have Matt on that often. Might have been on one other time ever. This is like the second time. So he and I went over boom, 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 a lot of different stuff. That was a really good show, and it got okay viewership. So you might have missed it. So I'm going to put that card up right there. I've told you what's happening tomorrow. Let's now take a look at the numbers. What happened today? Well, we got Tesla down 1.83%, with the NASDAQ down 2.24%. So you know what that means? It means Tesla outperformed. Even though it's down 1.83%, it wasn't down as much as the NASDAQ. Now people are like, why is the NASDAQ down so much today? Well, the NASDAQ was down, and the Dow was down, and the S&P was down. Why were they down? Well, they were down partially because there was a whole bunch of new tariffs that were thrown out there again, another bit of chaos. And chaos, everybody goes, okay, we're not going to do chaos. We've had enough chaos. Well, okay, here's what you got. You got all of them way out past their skis. All of them, all of the indices, all of the equities are way out there, super, super stretched. I said it the other day. You heard me say it on Tuesday night if you watch with 𝐒𝐮𝐧𝐝𝐚𝐲. Very, very stretched. So anything is going to cause it to go down. Well, this was a something. So you already had it going down already last night and this morning. And then on top of it, here come those labor numbers. Now, the labor numbers, as you may have heard me talk about this morning, were actually good. What do you mean, Randy? They were good. Well, you can't trust the number of jobs that were added. You can't trust that number at all. So I don't know what the 70,000 meant. It could have been 130. It could have been 250. It could have been 3. It doesn't matter. That headline number is useless, totally of no value. What about what about these adjustments, Randy, for the last 2 months? Totally valueless. I have no idea what they mean. So the only thing I can go on, the thing that's consistent, the thing that is based on a survey, so you kind of have to get it right. So the thing that there was a household survey number is 4.2% unemployment. It's up from 4.1, which is good, which is excellent. And it's something I can count on. I can maybe count on that number. I'm not sure, because you could ask the question funny. You could change the way you ask the question. You could change the number, the people that you're calling, but at least that number is consistent with kind of what we're hearing in the rest of the market. The GDP is up. It's not down. It's not flat. It's up at least 1.25. And it looks like, based on good reporting from the Atlanta Fed, that maybe it's going up even more in the third quarter right now. So that's doing well. We see the unemployment numbers every Thursday, even though we may not trust them, but we see how many additional people are going. We saw the JOLTS numbers on Wednesday, which doesn't come from the government. It comes from I think that's a non-government thing. We saw the numbers from ADP. So you've got all these other numbers that would be consistent with the fact that unemployment's about where it was, and that's a good number. So I'm saying that's a good number. But the markets were ready to do something. The markets did do something. They did come back some, then they came back down some, and the VIX went crazy, went from 15 to 20, 21, I think, actually. So that was not unexpected given the turmoil today. There's a lot of other numbers that were out that we went over this morning. All in all, I would say the economy is just fine. Listen to a number of economists today. All of them think everything's fine. Third quarter is going to be better than the second quarter. Fourth quarter is going to be better than the third quarter. And then we're off to the golden age. So that's what I think. Call me crazy. All right. All the Magnificent Seven were down. Apple 2.5, Google 1.5, Amazon 8, Meta down 3, Microsoft down 1.78, and NVIDIA down 2.33. So pretty much all across the board, Tesla actually did better than most of the Magnificent Seven. The VIX did end up at 20 and 20.38. Of course, there is no pre-market tonight. No. Oh, well, we do have the after hours, so we can look at that. We can look at Tesla is down another 0.43, 301.33. It has bounced off of 300 a couple of times now. So 300 is looking like an extremely strong stopping point. But if the market goes down a lot, if we do go down 5% or go down 10%, as I mentioned the other day, we could easily happen. A 5% correction would not be silly. Even a 10% correction would not be surprising. Then Tesla could easily go down and test 270, 275, somewhere there. Could have, I think Nicholas said it could go down to 250. Anything's certainly possible. Now, if any little catalysts hit, you know the catalysts we've been talking, we don't need to go through all of those yet again. Okay, so what about the Cathie Woods? Cathie Woods were all down also, some of them pretty strongly. I'm just going to pick one to see what happened in the after and the just for fun, just pick a couple of them here. Pretty much everything down. Oh, see, here's one. 𝐼𝐥 was up in the after hours. So a little hard to tell. Let's just do a little more fun here. Let's go check what happened with let's take NVIDIA. NVIDIA, whoops, I just did that wrong. Is also down another full point in the after hours. So yeah, I'd say continuing down in the after hours is what it looked like it's doing. All right, what did the rest of the market do today? Let's go on to bonds. We already know that they went down 14.4 basis points. Now you're talking down to 4.216. This is not a bad thing. So if there's a little bit of fear out there, the VIX goes crazy, the equities come down, all of a sudden everybody's taking flight, going over to bonds and gold. And so bonds had a big rally down to 4.21. We really need to be at 3.75. Anything's possible. Let's see if we can keep that going. Oil dropped a whole $2 today, down to 67.26. I'd like to see that continue. Natural gas also came down 0.35. We're sitting at 309, 310. So we'll see whether or not we end up around. I don't think that it's really good for natural gas to go under $3. I think the oil industry likes to see it around 325, if I remember right. Anyway, gold up 67.40. So quite a flight to gold again. Gold has been crazy, radically volatile for the last 2 weeks. Silver up a full percent again, back to 37.10, and copper up 2%, up to 444. I would not be shocked to see copper move fairly strongly back up in closer to $5 again. That would be a guess. That's a guess. It's not. Don't invest based on that. Okay, that's not investment advice at all. That's kind of a gut feeling. All right, we've got the dollar tumbling a little bit today. We've got Bitcoin really tumbling, 3,791 back to 113, 189. And that is all we have in terms of the numbers. All right, so I already told you the cards I'm going to put, just the one card. I'm going to put that Matt Smith card up there for you to look at. Highly recommend you go back and check that out. And I think that is all I've got for you today. So I will say it's been great talking to you.